I spent 5 hours creating this AI-powered task management app using Manus and Cursor. It was awesome and magical, but also not so awesome at the same time. With AI coding tools like Cursor, Replit, Lovable, anyone, literally anyone, can build functional applications just by describing what they want. This really lowers the technical barrier. Non-technical people from all sorts of backgrounds, marketers, writers, designers, business owners, domain experts, editors, researchers can now build apps to solve problems in their own domains. It really blurs the line between builders and users, technical and non-technical folks, something that was not really possible before. I'm a data scientist by trade, and I'm quite familiar with Python and R, and through various projects at work and from my computer science bachelor study, I've also picked up quite a bit of JavaScript and some basic web development. But I have very little experience with real software engineering or app development. So I figured I'd try out vibe coding and see what it could do. I want to solve a very personal problem. I often get overwhelmed by too many tasks and not knowing where to start. I also tend to forget to log tasks from my emails, documents, or WhatsApp messages into my to-do list. So my idea was pretty simple. You input some text or upload a screenshot of an email or chat message, and an AI model will extract the information into an actionable task with a clear title, description, deadline, and even decide for you how important or urgent it is. I only want to use local AI models because I want to use this app only locally on my computer. So if I had any sensitive tasks or documents, I wouldn't need to worry about them being stored somewhere on the cloud. So at the beginning of my project, I start with Manus Agent. I prepared a pretty detailed project concept with the key features I need, and then just ask Manus to build a prototype for me. In less than 1 or 2 hours of iteration, I went from nothing, not even a napkin sketch, to a basic working prototype. Manus even deployed the app for me and gave me a live link, which is pretty cool. But at some point, Manus got stuck, unfortunately, for whatever reason, so I downloaded all the code and switched to Cursor to polish the UI and add some extra features. After lots of prompting and accept all, without even looking at the code, I got a functional app with all the basic features I had in mind, from AI task extraction using a local LLM running via Olama on my laptop to a sleek dashboard with drag and drop functionality. I even topped it off with a nice watercolor forest background that I downloaded from Canva, all created without me writing a single line of code. It did feel pretty magical, at least at first, and I could totally see why people are excited about this stuff. But quite soon in the process, I realized vibe coding is not a free lunch, and I'll tell you why. One of the first things I noticed is that AI would do the absolute minimum at the beginning. In my project concept, I clearly stated that the key feature of this app should be using an AI model to capture tasks from input text, images, and voice, but Manus Agent did none of that. Instead, it created an UI with a simulated AI extraction feature. So it basically just split the input text into several lines and then treated each line as a task. So I had to go back and explicitly ask it to use an actual AI model for task extraction. The feature still didn't work after that, so I had to manually go into the debugging console and try to figure out what was going wrong. Obviously, this would be a real challenge if you generally don't know how to code or debug. You probably wouldn't even know where to start. So my first lesson is, these agents are great for simple prototypes without complex logic or backend, but anything more advanced would require you to be more deliberate and diligent. Always double-check what you want to build is actually implemented. Also, a lot of times the coding agent will tell you it successfully implemented something, and you'll be like, okay, that's cool, done. But then you realize the feature doesn't work, and worse, something else breaks. In my case, when I asked Cursor to implement the drag and drop functionality between the task categories, it confidently said it worked, but it actually didn't. And somehow it also broke something completely unrelated, that all the text turned white and become unreadable. So this is exactly what trust but verify principle means. You always need to test what the AI has done, whether through functional tests or visual checks or reviewing the code yourself. I guess that is the human component in this AI workflow. I also noticed with AI tools, starting is easy, but finishing is much harder. In a traditional development workflow, you build something slowly at first and then momentum builds over time. But in an AI-assisted workflow, you often get to the 80% super quickly. But it's a bit of an illusion. Progress starts to slow down or even stop completely, especially if you hit major roadblocks and don't know how to move forward. AI-generated code can take you far, but only so far. In my experiments, my app is very basic, so no user accounts, no payments, no authentication, or analytics. I also didn't include any alerting or guardrail features, which is not at all typical of any real-life applications. I can imagine these features would take much more time to actually complete if you don't have some understanding of software development or some system design. So what you might end up with is a shelf full of half-done prototypes and no finished projects. This is of course totally okay if you just want to play around, but you wouldn't likely become a software millionaire just using vibe coding. The time-saving promise of AI coding agents also comes with a lot of nuance. A recent randomized control trial by METR examined how frontier AI tools as of January to June 2025 impacted the productivity of experienced open source developers, and the results were quite surprising. Instead of speeding things up, using AI actually slowed developers down by 19%, even though the developers believed they had saved around 20% of their time. The study also looked into the factors that actually contributed to the slowdown, and one of them was the complexity of some projects. Another issue is that AI-generated solutions are accepted only around 50% of the time, so half the time. And developers often need to make major changes to clean up AI code. So the reality is, at some point, you actually need to understand what's happening under the hood in order to make real progress or fix stuff. And this can be really hard and time-consuming. From my experience, I always found that reading and really understanding code that I didn't write usually takes longer and is more difficult than if I write the code myself. And if you don't have any coding skills at all, this isn't even an option. And over time, without understanding what you've built, you'll end up with a bunch of coding projects that nobody, including yourself, can understand or trust. So my takeaway is, if you want to get the most out of these AI tools, learning the basics of coding and software development will help you immensely. You actually just need to know enough to be dangerous. You'll have much more common sense and confidence instead of overly relying on AI. You know what's missing, where to look when problems occur, or even know if those problems even exist. I recently saw someone comment on a YouTube video, "I have gained some new major clients this year who vibe code their apps in Replit and needed me to fix them." I say, keep them coming. I believe this is the real state of things. You get stuck when you don't know the basics, and other people with the skills can monetize from it. Whenever I see someone post on social media about building a full app in 2 hours using AI, I often find myself being quite skeptical. I don't know if it's more marketing for big tech or the reality. This may be true for some small projects, but anything real and complex require more than just vibe coding skills. So I made this video about my own experience, not to discourage you from using these AI tools. I honestly think these AI coding agents can give a massive productivity boost if you already kind of know what you're doing. If you can review code, catch bugs, test the features, ask some good questions, and even suggest improvements, then these tools will become your superpower. My point is, AI tools don't remove the need to understand what you're building or the need to learn some coding fundamentals and some software engineering best practices. So if you've tried Vibe coding and now feel the itch to actually learn how to code, build AI applications from ground up, or understand what's going on under the hood, I've built a program to teach you all the fundamentals of Python, machine learning, and AI. If you're interested, check it out in the description below. I'd also love to hear about your experience with Vibe coding, which tools you use, and how did you feel about the results. Feel free to share it in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.